so forth.
Yeah.
That has never changed. It's just different generations. But also, too, many of our communities, we're Latinos, Chicanos, Mexicanos, but there are a heavy Mexican neighborhood, Mexicans from Mexico, that the parents don't speak English, but the kid does speak English and Spanish. That is a barrier, too. And I see that when we're in the schools. So I always tell them about South Chicago's Art Center. We're moving to this big place, and get involved with your kid. Learn English, and things like that. It's going to be a beautiful place, I tell you. And it's free. Gratis.
And
That's yeah.
I think one thing we should do, I think it starts if you can get the little kids involved, and maybe it's a collaboration with the Y and the library and the, art center, to say, yes, it's a cost-effective, constructive activity to get your kids involved in and expose them to.
Yeah.
Because once you expose them to it, ultimately they may drift towards, they may say, hey, I want to do something more fitness related like basketball, or I want to do something more art related like painting or music or dance, or I want to read more. But I think if you expose them to it at a young age and offer them alternatives in a safe environment, I think then we can, make some headway to get more and more people coming in. I mean, it won't.
That's the word,
Go ahead,
safe.
British.
I feel like if you partner with certain schools, because my school doesn't have art at all. We don't have no art classes, but we have a music class, but that's only for the sophomores. So if people would give after school programs for art, like at our school we have the SMART program, I think, and people join that to draw. If we have more of that, and elementary schools, I think they still get art. I don't know. It's been a long time. If they have it for them to go after school, then maybe, because it's still within the school, and it'll be like the same transition, so it's not that bad. So they'll go to the little art program, then they tell their friends, and their friends come just to be with their friends. So words will get out. Yeah.
You're right about that. Maybe 15 years ago, I did a project up in Rogers Park, and it was a school project, and it was on Saturday mornings. It was volunteer, and it was something to get kids to learn in a creative manner. And you might count jelly beans, and they get to eat the jelly beans, and it'll help them with their math or things like that. And once we told the kids about the program, they voluntarily came, and it was free, and it was Saturday. It was basically like going to school on a Saturday, but they, the kids just came, and then we opened it up to it was from 3rd through 5th or 6th grade, and then we opened up a 2nd grade class the next year, and it was so crowded because they heard that their friends were doing it, and they had so much fun at this Saturday class. And the parents liked it because, from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Saturday, their kids were gone. I mean, so, and it wasn't in a nice, I mean, it was these were at-risk kids.
I agree with the planting the seed early. I mean, when I came here, I knew I wasn't going to get the teens. I was going to get the kids, the little children first, and then they grow up here, like Cassie and Anthony, who's my employee, and Alana, who is a teacher for us and is an intern, and Katarina, who's also a teacher for us. Those were all, they started at 6 and 12 years old. So what do you think about planting that seed? How do we reach out and plant that seed for all those kids? I mean, we all have that memory, of that first memory. What about all those kids that never were touched by anything, which I think a lot of kids these days aren't? Go ahead. We'll hear from you.
I just have 2 comments. One, I was born and raised right here in this community, and I think part of the barrier has been, ever since I've been here, it's not the South Side community, it's always been South Chicago, it's been the East Side, it's been Haywood. So I think there's a huge barrier to break down. The other thing I just wanted to say was, when I was working at Metropolitan...
Wait, do you think it's possible to break down? Can we just...
I think it is, but I think you need to get your hands into a lot of different areas in those communities. And I was just going to comment, one of my positions was to develop a community school model at Callisto. And what we found was that we needed to partner with the YMCA because the families over at Callisto, and Callisto's a huge school, never wanted to come to the Y or never felt they could come to the Y. So by us bringing in things from the Y to the school, we were able to make those connections. We partnered with the library, we partnered with the Art Center here, because it sort of broke down some of the barriers. It helped our parents see, oh, Sarah was here, or Anthony was there. Who from the YMCA was there. So I think what we were trying to do, and unfortunately our grant ended, so our work ended there, but was to get the families to be familiar with what was in the community, because we found that even though the school was so large, they had no idea that the library was on 106th Street and that they had tutoring. They had no idea that the children could come here to South Chicago and participate in the Art Center. So I think there's a lot of, you just need to get your hands into a lot of different places so that parents know and meet you, they meet other people, and then they're more likely to take advantage of what's happening. But breaking down the community barriers between South Chicago and the side, our chambers of commerce are not even able to do that. So I don't know how to do that, but I know there is a big fear of bringing children from the east side to South Chicago, from Hegewisch to South Chicago. They're just walls that were built a long time ago and they need to come down.
Anything to say, Chamber or
Well, not walls so much, and I agree with all of us keep saying that I'm this, you're that, she's that. But like she knows, it's transportation.
Yeah.
You worry about transportation all the time. We just, that last conversation we had, that was a major conversation. How do you get those kids here? Plus, I worked at the YMCA. It's money driven. It's sales driven. The only thing available to children is $3 to use the gym. There's nothing else. They've sold out every part of the Y. You've got childcare in 2 areas. You've got the workroom down in the basement. There's no place other than if you partnered with the childcare and have a class where I see them walking around. They take them for a walk in the summer, or they take trips. Walk them across the street now for a class.
Yeah.
That would be, and if it's free,
Yeah.
because free is the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. Can I say something about the Y? And I know you're here, you're there. I see you. I got you. But as a civic engagement leader, I took the notion that it is somewhat driven based on membership. I got that. But, so I started there, brokered a relationship with the Y. They gave me the liability insurance. I did the program there. It was all for free. They allowed the students to come to the program for free without having to get a membership. So that program at the Y then satellited to the Chicago Public Library, which is like 3 blocks away from there. So now we have this mobile program moving, brokering relationships with what I call
Which way?
places.
That way? The
Not
library's
the,
across
the Y by Gage Park. I'm sorry?
63rd and Holman.
63rd and Holman,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the West Community.
West Community Y and the Chicago Lawn Library. But no, I think it's broken relationships is really
Well, you're going
important.
to have to do this at our Y because it's kitty corner. I mean, it's cross street.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that like brokering those relationships is really
Let's
important.
be more positive.
No, I'm just saying broken relationships is really important.
Like, it is.
Not that I'm throwing anybody under the bus. I'm trying to be.
I think the fact that we're going to be kitty corner, we will create programs for the kids, and I think it will be like something that
It was
people
about
will see
relationships.
partnerships.
And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that those relationships, unfortunately, because we have that overarching metro office that says this is what you do, this is what you can't do. It's up to the executive director to say, we're in a community and we want to be out there. And luckily, the executive director that we have now, she is all about the community because she lives right by Trinity Hospital. So she's like, this is her neighborhood now. And so she wants to be engaged. She wants us to be pushing ourselves and putting ourselves out there. But again, it's how do we make the partnership? How do we make it stick?
I think just
and how
our
does it work?
existence, we're going to have collaborative programs between the
And Natalie
three.
Galindo is my niece, and she's the most fabulous artist
Yes.
I know. She's
And
talented.
she said, she was like, I want to be a teacher. She was like, and then that way I could just teach at the Y. And then that way that's already making that step. And I'm like, sounds great to me. I will offer up my kids without a problem. I mean, and even I'm thinking now for summer camp, I'm still trying to figure out trips. this would be perfect.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah,
kids
for
that
sure.
are like art driven, that every Friday
Yeah.
is our free day. They're like, are we doing
Yeah.
an art project? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, well,
Yeah, give me a
that's
second to
great.
think about
I think
that.
it'll be a great corner for kids, and Yesenia, you just had 2, so.
I can't wait to put them in classes. So I want to follow up a little bit on what Maria mentioned earlier about the language barrier. Coming from a home that English was my second language, if a class was not offered in school, if it was not after school, my mom probably would just be like, no. You know what I mean? Like, or just read a paper. I mean, she didn't understand it. We're not gonna do it. So, I think that's definitely an obstacle for a lot of families here. Is if it's not actually offered at the school, and it doesn't have to be, like a school class, but like you said, after school program or whatever the case may be. Most likely, I mean, coming from knowing my mom, we wouldn't have done it.
So even if you tried to convince her?
I mean, just because, like I said, it's that, me personally, I didn't know English that well at
Okay.
that point either. So for me to be able to understand a program as a, and I'm talking back in elementary school, to be able to understand a program and explain it to my mom, it's not gonna happen.
Well, luckily we have Laura and William to be able to communicate, because I think a lot of, like, our College Smarts program and the barrier for bringing kids to college, was that the parents didn't really understand that process, and it was the language barrier of that.
My students also have an issue with, even after-school programs right at the school. A number of parents are working so much that getting from point A to, like, even from school to home, there's no one to even, like, bring them back and forth.
So they have to get them, they can't stay.
Yeah, so, like, sometimes I have students that really want to do more art outside of school, but they can't stay after school because there's no one to, so I see that happen a lot with a lot of students. So, like, even just coming all the way up, like, it is to them all the way up here. It's a very far distance for, like, some of my kids.
We tend to get a lot of kids from the east side in the summer, because parents will drop them off and they'll be here. Roland, go ahead.
Yeah, just to touch base on the whole barriers, like she was saying with the neighborhoods, it is there. People don't like to admit most of it. I mean, perfect example, when Mark was with the chamber, we did a networking event with the chambers. We extended it to all the chambers. We held it at our studio on the east side, and the east side chamber didn't want to participate. It was just South Chicago does South Chicago, east side does east side. That was the mindset, and it's hopefully it's breaking down, but like what you're doing with these kids here, this is who's going to break those barriers, because some of the older generations already got that mindset. This is how we did it, this is how it's done, so it's harder to break them. But having the younger ones come in and show, like, I'm from this neighborhood, I'm from that neighborhood, or this school, that school, and we're all working together, that shows, the adults, like, wow, look at, they're doing it, it could be done. And then partnering with other organizations from the areas, like one in the east side, one in Hegewisch, like just finding an organization that is willing to work together, that pushes away from that persona of that barrier, I think that'll help too, but I think the main key is the young ones showing, leading by example, so.
And I think too, and Angela, I think you can speak to this, is an executive director really is driven to either bring in programs and bring connections together or isolate. And I mean, I think Clarion Associates is kind of a perfect example of really considering the whole community and thinking about housing and thinking about art programs and thinking about safety. Just like this myriad of like, what do we need to do? Just like the art center, we have our garden up the street. I mean, that's not visual arts, but it creates a beautiful space. I think a lot of people in South Chicago are thinking more holistically and under the bridge. And I think, in the why, maybe you have more of a secure program, but I think we all, and the church, thinking about what can we all do together.
I think it's also about similarly to what people shared earlier about